Okay, welcome to Your Urban Connection. This is this channel where we often imitate it, but we're never duplicated because we talk about things that others won't touch. So I'm honored today to have as my guest the interim chief of police for Wichita, Mr. Lem Moore. Mr. Moore, Chief Moore, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, you're in what, about your second month now as the interim chief?
Actually, no, it's the first month. I took over March 1st. So it's a month and about 5 days. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So basically, has it been what you expected to be up to this point?
No, it's been a little rough, as you've seen in the media. However, it's just like some kids, when you learn to swim, they throw you out on the, in the pool in the deep end, and they say, survive.
Sink or swim, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it's been like.
Well, listen, without getting into the deep thing right now, it seems like you did step off into the deep end of the pool, okay?
Yes.
And it seems like the water just rises and continues to rise. So let's start off with, basically, I want to talk about this, and which was everybody else talking about, this text messaging thing between your officers and 3 deputies of the sheriff's office.
Yes.
How did that affect you when you first found out about the extent, not the print, but what the extent of these conversations? How did it make you feel as a Black man?
Okay. Well, and I'll talk as a professional and as a Black man, because totality, there really shouldn't be any separation on the feeling of what this, looks like and what it actually is. The bottom line, those text messages, on de-escalation, the meme, of George Floyd, it's just pure, it's pure horribleness. When I look at that meme, honestly, it's like the same thing I saw when I first saw that video of George. I never watched the video of George Floyd. I saw the first 2 minutes, and all I saw was evil. I saw evil. I saw sadness. I saw disgust, and so I turned it off. And I saw all the other stuff that people said had happened. I could not manage and deal with that, because that's not at my conscious level of what even wanting to imagine, is possible. But I know, it happened. So when I saw the picture, it's the same thing. It's a horrible, dark humor that I'm not into, that I wouldn't fathom even participating in, or I even having, anyone in my life send me. So it doesn't mean that the people involved are evil. It just means that what was sent is evil and bad. And so that was my first impression when I saw it.
Okay. Now, how do you respond to those people that will say, why is at least one of those officers that were involved in this, why is he still on the police force?
Okay, and I know which one you're talking about that's in question. That would be the one that actually sent the meme. And in our investigation, we found that the meme was sent, he had the meme sent to him by an African-American friend of his. He received it, and then he sent it to the sheriff deputy or sergeant that worked on the SWAT team with him. In our review, he didn't send it to any other SWAT members. There was confusion. There weren't other SWAT members involved in sending that meme. It was just between him and the sheriff deputy that was sent back and forth with. So the totality, and I can't say what was in Chief Ramsey's mind or the staff members that were dealing with this at the time. All I can say is look at it from my perspective, as a leader, and say that everything has to be taken into consideration. And when you have a meme that's such as this, that's evil, we already know that. We know it's evil, but now you have to justify whether it's discriminatory or not. And when you have George Floyd laying on the ground and you have a Black man, a naked Black man on top of him, sitting inappropriately, just in a horrible position, is that discriminatory? And the federal guidelines, you have to have other assessments along with that to make it discriminatory, which is why WPD at the time sent it over to the FBI, and who sent it on to the Department of Corruption, and then sent on to DOJ, so they can determine, hey, are these within the guidelines of the FBI that say it's discriminatory? There were no civil rights violations that were, identified, no criminal that were identified on the PD side. And so The PD members, I'm not gonna say, this is all speculation because I wasn't in their mind. This was 2 years, actually it was last year when they dealt with this. The meme was sent 2 years ago, but this was last year when they dealt with it. And so I don't know the context of the time and the nature of all the different variables, whether, who was all involved in the conversation. But I would know that when it comes to my decision making, like right now, if I were to have received that, I would first have to determine, is this discrimination? And so I'd have to hit on the guidelines for the federal guidelines, because if not, and I take someone and I fire them and say that something is discrimination when it's truly not identified as discrimination. So what I've done is I've empowered that person now to turn around and sue the city, not only get back pay and pain and suffering for what they've lost or what they've missed out on that, but at the same time, they'll get their job back and they're still out here anyway. So those are all of the things that get taken into consideration is, how much am I going to be able to win this battle? But at the same time, and looking at the discipline that was executed or applied to the situation, I don't agree with that at all.
Okay, now you talked about discrimination, and that's one thing, and I understand where you're coming from. However, I'm sure that you will agree with me that these actions caused your police department to be disgraced. It was clearly a violation of your policy. Is that right?
To send inappropriate memes, yeah, it was
Okay.
definitely a
Well,
conduct
is that not
unbecoming.
a firing offense by itself?
It's a conduct unbecoming, and a conduct unbecoming. It's that firing offense with the police department. We have different levels, A through F. E's and F are terminatable, and discrimination is an F. It's automatic determined. If you're able to prove discrimination, you automatically no tolerance, you're fired. If you're not able to prove that, through interviews and speaking with the person, what was your intent? Why did you send this? What was on your mind? You look at the person's history, and if they have a past of racial profiling complaints, they have a past of different things along those lines, then all that stuff is taken into consideration. And this officer in this person's past, literally zero in his file, nothing. This individual had saved lives within the organization. And so that's the only thing that he had in his file. And his explanation was, I made a huge mistake not looking at the entire, totality of my actions. And so he fell on the sword and said what he said as far as, I feel remorse. I'm sad about it. And does it justify anything that happened? No, it doesn't. But all those things get taken into consideration. And the policy violation, it ended up being a D violation, conduct unbecoming. So that's what it was originally. It originally went with, and then as the media says, it was changed. I wasn't a part of that, so I really can't give you the mindset of what was going through Chief Ramsey's mind or through the boss's minds when they were making that decision. But that's what they went with.
Okay, now you said that nothing was on his file prior to this texting message. Is that correct?
Right.
So his file did not indicate to you that he was one of the officers that was involved in the killing of Mr. Was it Cortez or whatever, Martinez or whatever in Old Town?
Well, it wasn't anything negative. Okay, so if you want to rephrase that, there was nothing negative. There was no sustained violation for a violation of a policy violation. Just that situation was cleared by the DA's office, and he was cleared of that shooting. And so all the officers, all the SWAT members have been cleared of all the shootings. And the thing is that the paper reporting this didn't go into detail the circumstances of some of the shootings. Some of that shooting, I was able to read a little bit because I wasn't out there. I was able to read a little bit about what took place, but some of the other shootings also involved an individual killing someone, and that SWAT officer or SWAT officers having to shoot back to defend the people that were around, the other victims. So there are other circumstances that are involved with the shootings, not just the fact that they're shooting people, but because there is actually a crime that took place along with that shooting, not just a crime, but a threat of life.
Okay. And the correct name, I'm sorry, was Marcus Smart. I botched that. It was Marcus Smart. Now, I will tell you this, and then I'll move on. I don't know if you're aware or not, but when this went to trial before a district court judge, this particular officer, and there were 2 officers involved, I believe, maybe 3. But anyhow, the judge said, after hearing all of the evidence, that the only reason that he was dismissing the case was because of the fact that he was bound by law under the qualified immunity rule to take that action. But he followed up by saying any reasonable jury would find these officers guilty as charged. Now, I can tell you, this is not hearsay. I have the full transcript of that trial, okay? So, you know, he might have gotten off, but he got off for one reason, and that was because of qualified immunity. Now, let's move forward. There's first reported that there were 11 officers involved and under investigation. Is that true or not?
There were 11 officers investigated from the WPD.
Okay. So now we're down to, as far as I know, one person on the WPD is under investigation, and that happens to be the black officer that first shared the meme. Is that correct?
There is an investigation. I can't go into details, but we're doing an investigation on that.
Okay. All right. Now, so let's turn down to another topic. I believe it was yesterday, the city council made some changes on your CRB board.
Yes.
It's my understanding that Captain Wendell Nicholson was the subject of the personnel changes. Now, here's my question to you. It is said that this change of personnel was something that was put in place by former Chief Ramsey. Now, so if that is the case, and Ramsey's been gone since March 1st, why are we just now hearing about that?
About what, the change in personnel?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, because I'm just getting in place. I'm just working through all the pieces of the puzzle. I've only been in place for 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks now.
Hold on, you misunderstood my question.
Okay, all right.
It's my understanding that this change was put in place not by you, but by the former Chief Ramsey. So my question to you is, Ramsey's been gone, as you said earlier, 5 weeks. So why are we just now hearing about this change?
Okay, so what change are you speaking about? I'm trying to figure out what change.
I'm talking about the removal of Captain Nicholson.
All right, so
CRB.
yeah, I don't know about 5 weeks ago. That was my decision last week. I made that decision because, and let me explain what happens is that when you're a new leader and you come into a position and you're dealing with turmoil, you want to be able to have a clean slate. And I didn't plan on moving Captain Nicholson, but he's at his 2-year mark anyway. Captain Doug Nolte, when it first started, was there for 2 years.
Yes.
Deputy Chief Pinkston now, but it was Captain Pinkston was there for 2 years. And so now Wendell Nicholson, Captain Nicholson, is at his 2-year mark. And so for me, I was going to start with a clean slate. You're going to see a whole lot more movements that are going to happen while I'm interim chief, because obviously what was happening under Chief Ramsey, like I said, he was a great leader. He did a good job. I'm not going to disrespect the man, but there are issues that are coming out right now. And if people didn't speak up about those issues when he was a leader, then I'm going to get people in there that I'm able to communicate with and be able to do what I need them to do to get the job done. Captain Nichols is a great guy. He works hard. He does a good job, but he's been there for 2 years. He was under Chief Ramsey's leadership. Now I'm coming in, I'm going to bring in someone else under my leadership, and I'm going to start from scratch, not just with the CRB board, but you're going to see a whole lot more movements, and you're going to have some people that are going to be upset with me and they're going to be mad. But the citizens, my community deserves better. My community deserves individuals that they can, and you can trust, the people that are there now. So I'm not, I want someone to twist my words, but the only way I'm going to guarantee that is if I pick my staff to work under me in the position I need them to work in.
Okay. Now, sticking with the CRB, yesterday the city council made some changes. Are you free and at will to talk about the changes that are made to the CRB and how it operates?
All right, so you've had a chance to probably read through it. I've skimmed through some of the document. I haven't had a chance to sit and read totally through it because literally my desk is swamped and dealing with, stuff that's being put in the media, with about Captain Nicholson and myself in the paper, things along those lines. For me, unnecessary conversations that are happening that, are really not effective for productivity, with the police department and its community. Captain Nicholson and I, we just hung up with each other right before this interview. We're on the same page. We're still communicating. We understand some of that stuff was in there. to get us to bump heads. That is not going to happen. I'm going to continue to work. We're both professionals, and we're going to complete our task. So if you want to bring up whatever you want inside of the recommendations, we'll go over it. If I can talk about it, I will. If I can't, then I won't.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't have it here in front of me.
Oh, okay.
So, I was just going by kind of what I scanned over in the paper.
Okay, so
let me ask you one final question on this issue. It's my understanding that Captain Nicholson, as head of the South Bureau, was overseeing over 100 people. And now, under his new position, he's overseeing about 19 people. Why should that not be considered a demotion?
Because he's in charge of the 5th bureau, which is the downtown bureau, because you have different bureaus. You have Patrol West, which is 1, Sector 1 thing, and you have, Patrol, South, which is 2. You got Patrol East, which is 3, Patrol North, which is 4, and now they've created a brand new bureau, which is supposed to start growing. Captain Nicholson, when he first got there, he didn't have the all 19. He had a little bit less than that. I put the community support specialists, which are the SRS workers, the social workers. I put them under him. I plan on moving more individuals within that bureau as time goes on, because it's going to grow. It's our downtown bureau, and they're responsible for traffic. They're responsible for downtown activity. And so that's huge in itself. And it's a big task, because we need to make sure that, Wichita is a safe environment for people to want to come and live and play. So I know some people looking at it from the outside, look at it as a negative, but in all reality, me getting into this position and getting all the fire thrown at me, I can look at it as a negative all day long. Why is this happening to me? I'm the scapegoat. I'm the black man that got put in this seat to, look bad when all this stuff is going on. Or I can look at it as an opportunity. This is my time to have the seat at the table and make things happen. Same thing is going with Captain Nicholson at the 5th Bureau. He's in charge of that bureau. He can make things happen. He can help it to grow. And he has the right man in the seat to help him to prosper and to make things happen. So it just depends on your perspective and how you're going to look at it. I didn't put him there. He was there before I became chief. But to me, we can make it work. We can make it a positive. If it's something that he doesn't like doing and wants to grow and move into someplace else, I'm willing to cultivate him and help him to grow and be wherever he needs to be.
Okay, now sticking with the CRB, I think the ordinance calls for up to, you correct me if I'm wrong, up to 17 members they can have.
And honestly, I didn't sit through the meeting for the ordinance, because here's the thing. I'll look at the ordinance, and then after they select, and we'll look and we'll make sure that all the everybody's passed their specifications and the requirements. It's not my job as the chief or as the leader of the community to second guess the council, or the city manager on what they decide to put in an ordinance or what they decide to do or moving forward. My job is to enact, whatever ordinance is out there. It's almost like when people come to me and say, hey, if they legalize marijuana as a police officer, how's that going to make you feel? And I said, well, if they legalize marijuana, it's legal. Then at that point, I won't have to enforce it anymore. And so I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to continue to, be effective in the areas that I need to enforce and be effective in. Same thing goes with the CRB. They're fantastic. I think they do a great job. I believe they do a great job. They literally in this situation accomplished the task that they were proposed and they were set up to accomplish. They found a flaw. They found holes in our investigative practice in this case here. 99% of, or actually 98% of the cases that come across their desk are fully legitimate and credible cases. This one right here, they're able to identify it. And why were they able to identify it? I know one of the board members said, by the grace of God, they were able to look for it, but they've been doing it. And so they know what to look for, and they know what to be able to pick and select. And it's great that they were able to find this. It's bad that it happened. It's bad that, we were involved with this. It's very embarrassing, but I didn't know about, the discipline on it. And so after it all came out, it was good to know as a leader to know, okay, this is what we don't do. This is what we shouldn't have happening. When we are disciplining people, do we take the community's voice into consideration? Yes, we do. Whether the policy, says one thing or not, we have to take all those factors, because guess what? The citizen's voice is going to be a part of the end result anyway, which is what we're dealing with now. So if someone would have got on the front end of it last year and did everything at least by the book that they were supposed to, even if it's not termination, even if it was just a conduct unbecoming, which is what the board says it most likely should have been, and the person received suspension without pay. We'd still be having this conversation because people would be heated, but the police department would have followed the guidelines within policy, and the policies is set, and it is a guideline, and the judgment that was rendered, in that case, is it wrong? I'm not going to second guess the leaders that were there. That's their decision-making process. It's there for them to go with. And so, no, are they totally wrong? They're not per policy. However, it's not what I would have done. It's not what the direction or decisions I would have made in that situation. So I don't want to take away from that leadership there, because they had the latitude to be able to move in the direction they moved in. And they obviously did, but it's not the direction that, me as a chief would take.
Okay, now, let me just say one. I want to stay on this for one reason. The reason I brought up the question about how many positions there are is because of the fact, and I think I might be wrong, but I think it's 17. It's either 14 or 17. But either way, every time I've been to one of those meetings, sir, there's at least 7 people not at the table. I mean, they barely have a quorum. Now, to me, that does not show a commitment to participate willingly and actively in that group. And let me just say this finally. I know for at least a year, there have been at least 6 vacancies on that board. I don't know if you were aware of that or not.
No, this the board and dealing with the CRB. My extent of dealing with the CRB is when I was at the training center. I was the training captain. Whenever an officer did something that was questionable, I would get called in with my defensive tactics instructors, and we'll do a presentation on what is actually taught to police officers to the board. And then the board would be able to say, well, that didn't happen in that situation, and then make their recommendations on what needs to happen from that point on. I know they don't have discipline, or they can't change discipline. Decisions. However, I know when I've attended, when they come back and say, well, did this person receive any kind of training? And so that recommendation of training isn't discipline, but it's a good recommendation. And they were able to guide, the leadership at the time on how to best train and guide the individuals that were involved with whatever situation they were involved in from the training center doing their presentation. And that was my extent of it. So I really got a true vision of what's happening in there, and a visualization of what's happening through this process, through the SWOT investigation and review. And those everyone's there because everyone wanted to hear. So the board was full and everyone was in the room. And so my perspective is a little bit different, but I mean, you could be right as far as other days when the topics aren't as heated.
Okay, now I want to bring in one more question, because I know you have time limitations, and I'm going to have to bring you back another time because we got a lot to talk about. Okay. But yes. I just want to ask you this. Going forward, under your direction, do you plan to increase the number of minority and women officers on the force?
All day long. Yes. That's been my claim to fame. That's why when I was at the training center, I was in charge of recruiting. And so during that time, there were record numbers that were put out. Myself and DC Wanda Givens, we worked, tirelessly to make sure that our staff was on board and we all worked together. Sergeant Jeremy Bogle, who, is an Asian male, he was able to supervise a LGBTQ detective that's in charge of pre-employment, a Asian pre-employment person, a white male, Latino, Hispanic male. We didn't have an African-American doing the recruiting on the team because I was at the academy and Sergeant Kimball was at the academy, and we made sure we did our roles as far as getting people involved. But we had the highest number of females ever in the history of Wichita Police Department in one class, where we had 19 females and 15 males in a class. We had all of our classes have had an African-American male in each of them, and we're increasing the females, which is fantastic. My goal right now, and like I said, I don't have anything to hide within my organization, and that's why I can talk freely with you and speak freely, because that transparency that everybody talks about. You know, I'm limited sometimes by state statute on what I can talk about, and that's not me not being transparent. That's me being limited by state statute. But I can say, you know, females on the department, we need to increase. We've implemented 30 by 30. So 30% of the females on the department, we need to have 30% of the females in the department by the year 2030. That's our goal. There's a whole huge project across the nation that's a lot of agencies' goals to accomplish. My goal, yes, is to get a lot of African-American females, because that's the lowest number of minority females that we have, along with Asian. The Latino females are increasing, but not at the rate that we'd like. But my goal is definitely to continue to increase minorities within the organization and have a representation of all groups. LGBTQ, we've had some come through the academy, we have some on the department. This is a good time. This is a fantastic time for growth and for building that trust within our organization. We've had situations where females that are victims in crimes that feel more comfortable with the female. And we're able to call up the female and say, hey, could you come over to this call to deal with it? And we're not minus those numbers. Or like when I first got on, we'd have to call a female from off duty. We'd have to call a female from, and wait for them to get out of the jail and booking someone because we were so limited in numbers. Now that's not a problem. So to answer your question, all day long, yes.
Okay. Well, I have several other questions, but like I said, due to your time limitations, we'll have to postpone them to another time. But I want to give you one chance. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look into that camera, speak to the public, and tell individuals why they should join the Wichita Police Department.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I appreciate that. You know what? Here's the thing. Me, I'm only 5'5". I'm a short man. I'm a little man. I'm a black man. And I understand, the trials, the issues that as a black man that each and every one of us go through in society. And I learned a long time ago, the only way that I'm going to be able to, make change, to partake in things changing and happening is if I become a part of what people see as a problem or what people see needs to be changed. And the Wichita Police Department and the African-American community and the Latino community, they have a good bond, but there is some friction there. And so, we're trying to get out to the schools. We're trying to do bike, training and safety for kids and be able to participate with young people so they grow up to have that ability to be comfortable with police officers. When I first joined the police department, I can tell you, I was trying to become a CNA. Even though I was in the Marine Corps, I had the GI Bill. I had nobody else that graduated high school or been to college. And so for me, when I went to apply at WSU to try and use my GI Bill, they told me I had to go back to the Marine Corps base. Marine Corps base, I had to go back to go back to WSU. After going back and forth, I gave up. I said, you know what, forget it. I'll just do this on my own. And I never did go to college at the very beginning. I didn't go to college at the beginning. And so I went and I started trying to become a CNA, found a group that trained me to be a CNA, secret 6 weeks course. And then I was going to work to be a nurse. God blessed me. And I was able to, find someone that said, hey, I'm a police officer. This is what police officers do. Showed me, the ins and outs. And then I joined the police department at age 21. And that's what I've done for 31 years. All of my friends went to Boeing. All my friends went to some of which is what Amazon is now here in town. They're going to Amazon. They're looking for that fast money. And those businesses dry up and they go away. I tell people, whether you're going to be a police officer, you're going to be a CSI, or whether you're going to work in records, but going into public, you work with public works of the city of Wichita, but you go into public service, you're going to always be guaranteed a check when you retire. And so unless you're Detroit, who went bankrupt, and not able to pay their employees, no other city in the nation has ever gone bankrupt. So I can't see that happening in the city of Wichita. So when you get to that age of retirement, you're able to have that check every month, like clockwork. And so I encourage people that if you're one of those people that think about your futures, that thinks about, wanting to have a family, that thinks about wanting to have that security of knowledge of knowing that as long as you do right, as long as you, care and you help others, that there's a job in the Wichita Police Department for you, and you can go a long ways. And it don't matter whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic. I get passionate about it because it's important. We have to stand up. And it's tough. I'm in this seat in the chief's office, and believe me, I've cried several times to God, and I pray because it's rough. but I understand I can't quit. I can retire today and I
Sure.
can collect my check and go get another job, double dip, and
Mhm.
live life without all the stress. But I understand I'm Wichita proud and I want to be here for my community.
Listen, I feel your passion. I hope that I can say, when your tenure is up, when we have a new permanent chief, I hope I can say that you did Wichita proud. Okay.
I pray so.
Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you for coming. And we're going to have to do this at least once every quarter. Okay. So I want full transparency between the police department and you as a chief and the citizens of Wichita.
We can do that. We can do that. Yep, definitely
Okay.
so.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. God bless.
Okay. All right, folks, that's the program for today. Hey, listen, if you like this, leave a comment and subscribe to this channel. Okay, yoururbanconnection.com. All right. Talk to you later. Thank you, sir.